If you're like me, you probably found yourself watching Jujutsu Kaisen's Shibuya incident arc and thought to yourself, damn, this is depressing. Somewhere along the anime timeline, things just got dark. Compared to older anime like Naruto and One Piece, modern anime is nothing but pain, and even more pain. I mean, Chainsaw Man's manga opens up with the main character Denji saying he sold his kidney, right eye, and one of his nuts for a total of 1.6 million yen, just to still be 38 million in debt. He's also 16 and homeless, by the way. His whole backstory just makes you say, damn. And we used to think Naruto had it bad. That's why in this video I want to compare the inspirational stories of the past like Naruto and One Piece with the more melancholy tone of anime today and try to find a reason for this change. The main anime I'm going to talk about is Naruto and One Piece for, I guess you could say, the OG anime, and Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man for the more modern anime. Side note, I love all these series. This video isn't to say which is better or worse, just a comparison of the themes. Now without further ado, growing up in the 2000s to early 2010s, the most popular anime era were Naruto and One Piece, and this is largely because of their inspirational and overall encouraging tone. Looking at Naruto and Luffy as protagonists from the very beginning of their journeys, they were always some of the most positive anime characters of all time. Naruto begins his story as a fearless yet impulsive ninja at the bottom of the ranks, but he still dreams of becoming the Hokage, the strongest ninja of all. Luffy, in a similar fashion, started his journey declaring that he'd become the Pirate King before he had a single crewmate. Both stories are built on a foundation of hope and optimism that shines through the protagonist at all times, and even in the moments it doesn't, like when something tragic happens to them, they bounce back with an inspiring sense of resilience. It's a stretch, no pun intended, to say nothing bad happens in One Piece or Naruto. It's just that when bad things happen to them, they're able to bounce back and find a silver lining in their most painful moments. When Naruto lost people close to him, it broke him, but he came to learn that it's a part of life as a shinobi, and that the ones that he lost are counting on him to become stronger so he can lead the next generation in their memory. In the world of Naruto, when something bad happens to a character, it's not long until they find closure and peace and move forward stronger than ever, compared to the series that I'll talk about later where the characters don't have any time at all to process the bad things, they just keep happening back to back. Luffy is similar to Naruto. People like to clown One Piece for not having a lot of deaths, but this just makes it hit harder when a death does happen. Like Naruto, when Luffy lost someone close to him, it completely broke his spirit. You gotta remember these are characters who are smiling and joking for 95% of the time, so seeing them in their depressed phases, even if they're few and far between, is demoralizing. Oda handles Luffy's bounce back out of depression in a way that I think is perfect too. In one of the best panels in the entire manga, Luffy, while going through his biggest depression of the series, realizes he still has his friends at the end of the day. This idea of learning through adverse times rather than being defeated is a lesson that I largely credit anime with instilling in me from a young age. And it's not like these anime were the first to do this. Dragon Ball Z is probably the most popular show that uses this cliche of sad moments making characters stronger. The difference is that in Naruto and One Piece, the characters have to learn a specific lesson before they bounce back and grow from their situations. They reinforce the idea that trials and tribulations are inevitable, especially when chasing ambitious dreams, but they also emphasize hope, resilience, and the importance of finding a silver lining. This is what gives both series their uplifting and motivational tone. A lesson without pain is meaningless. That's because you can't gain something without sacrificing something. But once you have overcome it and made it your own, you'll gain a heart that's stronger than everything else. Jiraiya. This is one of my favorite quotes in Naruto because it perfectly captures the themes of resilience and optimism that define Naruto and One Piece. However, as shonen has evolved, we've seen newer series take a different approach to adversity, one that doesn't always offer the same silver lining. Now, if you've seen Jujutsu Kaisen or Red Chainsaw Man, you know just how, let's say, traumatizing they are. When it comes to popularity in the shonen battle genre, it's not crazy to say Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man are the modern day Naruto and One Piece. The cool thing is that these series achieved this level of popularity by recreating the mode of the shonen battle genre. Take Yuji, for example. He's not the typical shonen protagonist striving to be the strongest or greatest Jujutsu sorcerer of all time. He just wants to live a life he doesn't regret. That makes his goal feel more realistic and relatable, but it also makes his failures hit much harder. His desire for a life without regret is made almost impossible because of Sukuna, the strongest and most evil curse of all time, who can take over his body whenever he pleases. This leads to the series having a looming sense of dread and hopelessness as we watch Yuji continue to struggle internally, facing the consequences of actions he's not responsible for. On top of that, he keeps losing the people closest to him before he can even process the grief. Despite this, Yuji's story ultimately reinforces a harsh but powerful message. No matter how cruel the world is, you have to keep enduring and moving forward. forward. Compared to Naruto, whose goal is to be the strongest, which strongly motivates him to keep going, Yuji is motivated by the need to right the wrongs committed by Sukuna while using his body. Even though he isn't really responsible, he shoulders that guilt and uses it as fuel to keep going forward, making his struggle feel even more tragic yet compelling. This is especially clear in the aftermath of Sukuna's massacre in Shibuya. When Yuji comes to and realizes what happened, all the people Sukuna killed, his first instinct is to give up, even telling himself he should just die. Then he stops, he forces himself to keep going, he realizes he has to fight. Even though he's in so much pain mentally from what Sukuna's done in his body, he has to move forward to try to repair whatever damage he can. Yuji's story shows how cruel the world can be, yet he keeps moving forward despite the overwhelming despair. Chainsaw Man takes this same idea but pushes it even further. Denji lives in a world where survival itself is the only real goal. Similar to Yuji, Denji doesn't dream of being the strongest, nor does he want to be some righteous hero that saves everyone. For the most part, Denji's goal is just to survive and experience basic human needs like food, a warm bed, and a girlfriend. Denji's life is so bad, I deadass feel like Fujimoto gets some sick, twisted satisfaction from writing it. As if not having these basic necessities wasn't bad enough for a 16-year-old, Denji does finally get friends, and they're gone. Not only was every single person Denji found that gave him a sliver of happiness taken away from him, but it was by the person Denji had a crush on. Fujimoto, how do you even come up with this? There's no big lesson Denji learns from all this chaos, and he doesn't have some heroic motivation like Yuji. In the world of Chainsaw Man, just surviving and making it to the next day is a huge win alone. This dark world leads to Denji having the most selfish motivation out of all four of these series. This selfish motivation is what makes him a compelling character though, because it makes sense that after being manipulated so much, he would chase the few things that make him feel good. He doesn't want to be Chainsaw Man because he loves saving people, he loves the attention and freedom that comes with it. From a young age, he was left alone and the only people who interacted with him were manipulating him. His selfishness might seem shallow, but it's completely understandable. He just wants to matter. After coming from nothing, the Chainsaw Man identity feels like proof that he was finally able to make something of his own in a cruel and nihilistic world. In essence, Chainsaw Man is about learning to appreciate even the smallest victories when it feels like the entire world is against you. But why do so many modern anime embrace this theme of struggle and perseverance more intensely than the OGs? In my opinion, this explosion of popularity in anime that focus on harsh realities isn't random at all. In Naruto and One Piece, the world bends to the protagonist's ideals. Naruto and Luffy changed the minds of countless people around them, giving them a larger-than-life heroic feel. But Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man feel more realistic, not just because their worlds are crueler, but because their characters are shaped by them. More people relate to being changed by the world rather than changing it, because while the latter sounds better, it's not as realistic. This shift in storytelling also lines up with how media consumption as a whole has evolved. With the rise of the internet, audiences are more desensitized to heavier topics, with shows like 13 Reasons Why and Euphoria normalizing the brutal depiction of self-harm, drug abuse, and trauma. People are exposed to harsh realities more than ever, making them value authenticity, even if it's depressing, over an unrealistic sense of optimism. I'm not saying one approach is better than the other, both have their place, but it's interesting how after years of uplifting and inspiring stories dominating anime, the entire industry flipped upside down. But what do I know? I'm just some guy. If you made it this far in the video, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment down below. I love you, and I'm out. Peace.